Alright, what's going on? So I'm home alone right now, so I figured I would try and get one of these fucking stupid videos filmed. So I just pulled some shit out. I pulled a bunch of 2020 releases out. This year has actually been pretty densely packed with like good shit so far, which is good because I try and make like one of these a year, maybe more, but I like to just make a video showing like just new shit, because I've never really been someone who likes filming like best of the year so far videos. The list videos in general are a bit grating, so I don't like to have to make more than one in a year. So that's what these videos are good for. And to address a couple things that I've seen recently, I've had a few people ask if I'm ever going to continue doing like the vinyl collection videos where I'm just kind of showing shit in alphabetical order. Yes, but like those videos are nowhere near as fun for me to film. I like being able to talk a little bit more in depth about a release instead of kind of blowing through it, and I like adding the song clips and shit like that. For me, the editing is kind of why I like doing these videos. So that kind of renders those videos just a little bit more annoying to make. But yes, I will continue. I just don't want to force myself into making a video if I'm not into it, because I've seen what that does and it never makes for a good video. Also, I've had a few people ask for a like a room tour, apartment tour. I'm considering it. I guess the problem is, like, I had already filmed one. I filmed an entire video and realized my goddamn finger was like over the mic for half the video, so it sounded super muffled, and it was completely unusable. So I already made one, but yeah, I don't know. I'm considering doing another one. Kaylee really wants to, so I don't know, maybe I'll let her take charge on that one, but I don't know. It'll probably happen at some point. Alright, let's fucking get into it. First, what we're listening to. I don't normally play vinyl when I'm doing these videos, because I don't like having to flip them. But yeah, Twin Tribes Ceremony, album from last year. I'm gonna talk more about this in another video where I'm gonna show just more non-metal shit. This is kind of just further down the dark wave kick that I've been on recently, so fantastic shit. And with all of that shit being said, let's get into it. Normally in these videos, I like to show the record that I probably like the most first. I'm not doing it this time around, but this is a record that I was looking forward to more than all of the others. This is the Black Dahlia Murder with Verminous. I know a lot of people like to get their fucking panties in a bunch because they think the Black Dahlia Murder is deathcore because they've literally never heard a deathcore band before. But this for me has always been one of my favorite bands. This is kind of the band that got me into death metal a long time ago. And because of this band, it sort of opened a door for me, and I've always looked forward to this band's releases. I think I came into it before Deflorate came out, so since then we've had like more than half of their discography come out, and I've always been curious about what this band will do next, because and it's hard to describe, and I've tried to describe it to people. Every one of this band's albums are Black Dahlia Murder albums, and that's why it's kind of hard to describe why I don't love some of the Black Dahlia Murder albums, because if you put it on, it's got everything that makes a good Black Dahlia Murder album. It just doesn't click with me like other ones do. For example, in 2013 when the album Everblack came out, that album blew my fucking mind, and to now, that could possibly be my favorite Black Dahlia Murder album. In 2015, they put out Abysmal, and I can't even tell you the last time I listened to that album in full. So it's kind of weird. It's very hard to describe. But, yeah. Anyway, the last one that came out was Nightbringers back in 2017, and I think that was probably, it was my favorite album of that year. So I was, of course, looking forward to whatever they did next, and 3 years later, which has broken the tradition because this band has always released an album every other year, This is the first one that took longer than that. The last one being released in 2017, it's now 2020, so it's a longer gap than we've ever had for a Black Dahlia murder record. But of course, I was excited to hear what they were gonna do, and I saw the cover art for the first time, and I was immediately fucking floored. And then they put out the first song, Verminous, and which is the title track, of course, and the first song on this album. And I was immediately like certain that this was going to be as good as Nightbringers based on the single alone. And after hearing this album a bunch of fucking times now, Verminous is easily my favorite song on this album. And unfortunately, it's kind of the only song on this album that feels like a classic Black Dahlia murder song. That being said, there are a lot of really good fucking melodies on this one. There's a lot of really fucking catchy vocal patterns on this one as well. I don't know. I mean, I can't talk about this shit forever. The album cover is absolutely fucking gorgeous. You can see like the slime on the cover. I think it said it was glow in the dark. I don't know, I haven't tested it, but the album cover is awesome. There's the back cover right there with just a close-up of part of the album cover and all the track listing. There's a gatefold right there with all the lyrics and a picture of the band in the center. It comes with an inner sheet with 2 bits of art on it, which is quite cool. It comes with a big fucking poster, which I would probably like more if it was just the album cover, but yeah, cool anyway. And the vinyl itself, I think they called it like Icar Splatter, 800 copies. There was a bunch of different versions of this one, like straight glow in the dark, like gray vinyl with like the same color splatters. There was like one that was like filled with slime, and I think that was limited to like 50 copies, but those are so fucking expensive, and like even if I had seen it before it sold out, there's no way. But yeah, I know I've talked forever about this one. I'll probably trim it down on the editing floor, but yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic album. It's still growing on me. It's certainly, for me, it's certainly not better than Nightbringers, but I liked Nightbringers, I think, more than a lot of people did. I can see this album, like, splitting the crowd neatly in half, because a lot of the people, I think a lot of the people who liked Ritual will probably like this one more than, like, Nightbringers, but it's hard to say because this is a different album. There's some songs in this album, like, vocally, like, I think it's Removal of the Oaken Stake. Yeah. Like vocally, that doesn't even sound like Trevor on vocals. But I would say that there's a wider vocal range on this one in full, which is definitely a good thing. If I had to pick any favorite songs, Verminous is easily my favorite. How Very Dead and The Wereworm's Feast are probably my other 2 favorite. There's a song on here about the Jack the Ripper, which is cool. I don't know. I love this record. Maybe you will too. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to dismiss it just based on the fact that it's a Black Dahlia murder, which is lame as fuck. Check it out, man. Verminous. Moving on, I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful about showing this one because there is a lot of nudity. And luckily for you guys, it's male nudity. This is Shitfucker with Sex with Dead Body. Oh my god. Fucking finally, we get a new Shitfucker full-length album 7 years after the release of the debut, Suck Cocks in Hell. And, you know, what's weird is, like, when I would think about this band, I would think about Shitfucker as having been relatively silent over the last 7 years in between the debut album and this one. But they haven't been, man. If you look at like their Discogs page, they've done they did like a 3-way like VHS with Midnight and Acid Witch, which is cool. But they've also done splits with Bone Hunter. They did a split with Midnight. They did a split with Abigail. Yeah, they did a demo last year that came out last year. I think it was recorded back in like 2015. That was called Ricky's Dead, which a few of those songs are on here. I think they might all be on here. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like I said, I've always just sort of thought that this band had kind of disappeared. But no, they've been releasing shit relatively steadily. It just took a while for a full-length album to come out. And from what I understand, there was a lot of bullshit that came along with recording this album, which is why it took so long. I won't pretend to know all the details, but I believe I read something about like a mastering of this thing just being lost or something like that. And I was relatively certain that we were just never going to see a full-length album from this band again. I saw this band live back in 2015, and they had mentioned on stage that they had already written a bunch of new music, and you know, there was talk of a full-length back then, and that was nearly 5 years ago. But it's good now because we have the full-length album, and Shitfucker has absolutely not lost their touch. This album is a whole lot like the first one. However, I think, in my opinion, that this album is quite a bit noisier and more chaotic. I don't know if that's a production thing or if that's actually in the music itself. But this album just sounds nastier than the first full-length album did. And everything about this is fucking nastier. There's some shit in here that it's gonna, like I said, it's kind of gonna be hard to show, but I'm gonna try anyways. And I've been talking to Kaylee about this, and she doesn't understand the aesthetic. And I guess I don't even know how to describe why the aesthetic for this works for a band like Shitfucker. I guess it's supposed to just be as offensive to every one of your senses that it can be. Like you know, I mean, there's male nudity all over this shit. And I guess I don't get it either, but I think it works for a band like Shitfucker. You hear their music, and you would almost have to expect some of the shit that you'll see in here. So I guess I'll just try and show you. There's the album cover right there. You can see I like the fucking spot gloss over the actual image. It's really cool. There's the back cover right there. You have all the song titles and a picture of the 3 band members. I'm not gonna get too close here, but you have all the lyrics on the inside. The ultimate experience in metal punk climax. I like it, man. I like a lot of the shit on here. What is real? Are you certain you know what reality is? Right here at the bottom, Shitfucker is fantasy, your deepest, darkest desire. Shitfucker will always kill, you bet your ass. And it looks like here they've created like a progression of like maybe like a prostitute hanging out with these 2 guys, and it just turns into the guy being dead. And they're just like taking pictures of his dead body. It's absolutely absurd. So I bought the, I think it's like red and Coke bottle green, so maybe like a swirl color. And it was supposed to ship, I think March 30th, I think is what they said. And then March 30th had come and gone, and it hadn't shipped for me. And then they had made Hell's Headbangers had made a post about how that version got pushed back to the release date, which is April 20th. But the clear with red splatter version was shipping immediately. So I bought both. So that's what this is, limited to 500 copies. I probably won't show the other one in a video because I've already talked about it. But that one was limited to 200 copies. So yeah, really fucking nice, very fitting. And the poster is fucking absurd. So on one side you have the album cover, which is bad enough, but on the other side you have Demon Bitch naked, putting a crucifix in his ass. And I like it up top. It says, "To all my fans and lovers, XOXO Demon Bitch." So I love that. So I don't know, is this just gay? Like, is that the point? Or is it supposed to be nasty? I don't know. However, the album is fantastic. It's like I said, it's weird. It's different than the first one. It's very fast, very nasty. There's some parts on here that are just weird for a Shitfucker. Like the song Leather Lady Lover. The whole like back half of that song is just this weird, it almost sounds like 70s rock singing, but it's very exaggerated. And it sort of tails off with like these sort of, I don't know, these sounds that are very specific to Demon Bitch. And I love it. This album is fantastic. I don't know if I love it as much as the first one because I've had years to listen to that album, and I've played it pretty consistently throughout the gap between the first 2 full-length albums. And you know, that album is old enough now where it's almost nostalgic for me in ways. So it's hard to say if I like this one more, but it's fantastic. Yeah, awesome, man. Check it out. Shitfucker, Sex with Dead Body. Hopefully hopefully that didn't get this video pulled down, because I've got some more good shit to show you. Next up here is one that I've also been looking forward to for a while. This is Cenotaph with Monte Verita. So I've been a fan of this band since basically the beginning. Hearing initially the sort of connection with the band Cavern, I had always been interested in this band. And this band has been releasing things pretty steadily over the last few years. EPs, demo, split with Circle of Arbros, but finally we get the first full-length album. So this is one of those bands that I would say has like a sort of bright atmosphere to it. And I don't ever really know how to describe what that means. But because like musically it's pretty fast and almost aggressive, but it's aggressive in an almost pretty colorful way. And I would say it's most aggressive sort of near the beginning of the album, because I think once like the fourth song rolls around, like clean vocals will start making appearances, and you know, at parts of the album it'll sort of do like chanty vocals, and it gets almost like folky at some parts. But I think that this is a really good mixture of those things. It doesn't spend the whole album just sort of being aggressive to the point to where it's just kind of white noise by the end of it and you have no idea what you just listened to. It stays interesting throughout the whole thing, which for me is a mark of a good band. And I knew Cenotaph wouldn't put out something that I didn't love. But man, I would say the bright spot of this album is the riffs, dude. Like, throughout the whole thing, they're just good fucking riffs. Vocally, of course, if you're familiar with Cenotaph, it's exactly the same. It's those like pained, howly vocals that I'm just a fucking sucker for. The drums spend a lot of time just blasting on this record, but it makes sense. It's just a good fucking record, man. I don't think anybody was expecting Cenotaph to put out a stinker. But there's the album cover for you. Back cover right there, put out through Nuclear War Now. I'm sure most of you guys are probably familiar, but Nuclear War Now likes to do like limitations not by choice, but sort of just by who gets in the earliest. So this case, there was the first 80 sold through Nuclear War Now came on white vinyl. From what I understand, it is limited to 100 copies. But yeah, I was kind of waiting for this one. I was checking the site a couple times a day before he actually announced when it would go up, and it went up before he said it would. So I checked Nuclear War Now pretty consistently anyways. So I saw this was up, I placed the order, and saw later that the first 80 would be white vinyl, so that's cool. And this also comes with a little booklet that has lyrics and shit like that. There's your band members, more lyrics, and information on the back. So this one's great fun, man. It's as good as I knew Cenotaph would be on their first full-length album, and it's cool to hear them finally do a full-length album. Fantastic. I know you guys probably already know it. If you don't though, check it out. It's Monte Verita. This next one here, as of right now, is probably my favorite thing to have come out this year. This is the True Werewolf with Devil Crisis. Again, kind of like Cenotaph, though with a longer history. This band finally put out their first full-length album after a very densely packed discography dating back to 2007. Just fucking tons of EPs, demos. They've done splits. You know, of course, compilations of a lot of that shit. But I would say definitely this is my favorite thing that the True Werewolf has put out so far. That I've heard. I probably haven't heard it all. There's a lot. But this for me sort of taps into my favorite things that black metal does. Like, this album is dark and nasty and cold, but it's very melodic. And you know, the True Werewolf does that on this album literally perfectly. The songs sound almost epic. The melodies on this thing are fucking awesome, and they're very consistently awesome throughout the entire thing. The vocals are great as well. They're a lot like, you know, Werewolf's vocals on like Satanic Warmaster, for example. But they're just delivered in such a way that fits with these sort of epic melodies. A lot of great riffs on this one, a lot of great choruses. on this one as well. I think my favorite song might be Chi no Namida, first song on the second side, but the last song, Magic Fire, is a standout as well, and probably could also be my favorite song on this thing. Musically, it sounds kind of like Motorhead, with, you know, like the signature Werewolf vocals on top of it. Fucking kick ass, man. Catchy as hell. But the song My Journey's Under the Battle Moon, Spellbound, The Witch of My Heart, 0373. Fantastic, man. I love this record. So there were two versions of this release, and there was a bunch of variants within those versions. So this is the original album cover, I guess they call it. But there was another one that had like a cover that was specific to that vinyl release, and I wish I had gotten that one because it had like a gatefold with all the lyrics. This is just like a single pocket jacket, which I don't mind. The problem is that this doesn't come with lyrics. Though I'm pretty familiar with some of the lyrics on this one because I've followed along on like Metal Archives a few times. Though I bought this version at first because I like this album cover better. I didn't know it didn't come with fucking lyrics. There's the back cover. You have the two band members right there and all the track listing. I opted for the bone white vinyl, which is quite cool. And all versions came with the same poster. And the poster is of this album cover. Even the other versions came with the poster of this album cover. So yeah, quite cool. Man, if you haven't heard this, dude, fucking over everything else, check this out. Fantastic. True Werewolf, Double Crisis. Alright, let's finish it off, and I think I already fucking mentioned what this one would be. This is Midnight with Rebirth by Blasphemy. I think we're now 3 years on from the last one, Sweet Death and Ecstasy, which for me was an album that was very underwhelming. I wasn't exactly a fan of the longer songs, the slower tracks, like Crushed by Demons, but, you know, it kind of put me off for a little bit, because when I heard about this, it was the same time that I heard that Midnight had signed to Metal Blade, and their last album on Hell's Headbangers I wasn't convinced by. I don't even own that album on vinyl. So I was fucking, man, I was worried. I was like, shit, what if, fuck, I like more than any band in the world, I think, I wouldn't expect Midnight to sort of lose that attitude that they had and sort of sell out, especially not to Metal Blade. But I'll tell you what, man, this one is such a massive step up from the last full-length album. This sounds totally like something they would have done in between the first two albums. I don't know if I have a favorite song on this one either. Fucking Speed and Darkness, Rebirth by Blasphemy. Raw Attack is a good one. Warning from the Reaper, Rising Scum. Luckily, them signing to Metal Blade was not a sort of a death knell for Midnight, though I worried about it, like I said. But it's kind of, you know, I don't know if it's really worth going too much into like the music. It sounds like classic Midnight, so if you like that, then you'll like this. The album cover is a bit weird, but all their album covers have been a bit weird. I like the back a lot. Really cool. There's more nudity for you. Though this time it's female nudity. 666 copies on like this red marble vinyl, which is quite cool. And you have all the lyrics on an inner sheet here. Very nice. So I know I kind of blew through this one. Like I said, if you know Midnight, then I'm sure you've probably already heard it, first of all, but also it sounds a lot like classic Midnight. So if you're interested in good, fast, nasty metal about chains and fire and sex and shit, check it out. Fantastic Midnight, Rebirth by Blasphemy.
No one wins. Tormentation breeds isolation. It feels false hope.
And that's it. 5 more records down. Like I said, this year's been great for new records, and this isn't, of course, all of what I've got. I could make a couple more of these, and maybe I'll do another one sooner rather than later. But yeah, thanks for sticking around, guys. We'll be back soon. Check all this shit out. Listen to Twin Tribes, which that will be in the description below. Yeah, don't flag this video. Thanks. Later, guys.